Hello, everyone, and welcome to the PBN Podcast. I'm Senator Lucas. I'm here with Vice President Hull.
Hello.
I'm here with Mr. Chief of Staff. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the PBN Podcast. And Senator Pete.
Hello.
Today, we are going to be talking about Young Vig, also known as Vita's presidency. Again, if anyone wants to be on for an interview, feel free to DM me. So Pluribus would like to speak first, I think, on the election of Young Vig.
Yes, the election of President Vita, very, very juicy stuff. As we all know, we all thought an independent president was never going to get elected. Well, we were proven wrong on election day when the Republican Party basically collapsed in on itself, and the Democrats also collapsed in on themselves.
It was kind of a double implosion.
Yeah, it was a double implosion. And Vita became the first independent president since George Washington.
Yeah.
So it's a
Since
heck of
George
a
Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically the Republicans at that point, we had Antonio as our last standing member, and I don't think Antonio wanted to actually be a serious president, so we basically forced them to back out on that point.
So you're telling me that you don't think he wanted to be president, so you forced him out?
Well, basically, Antonio dropped out first, right? And then we had Monty, and Monty dropped out.
Monty crashed. That's what Monty did.
Yeah. Monty imploded on himself.
Yeah.
And Antonio was the last one standing. I don't think Antonio even had a VP or a campaign. So,
no.
Interesting stuff.
It was Sandoval's campaign. Sandoval just started going after Vita. And there was something really petty. It was like over bills. I don't remember. Yeah, and then Sandoval basically lost it near the end.
Lost it.
Yeah, that's what I say.
That's a nice way to put it.
That's a nice way.
But I think what happened was that there was the stuff with the impeachment that kind of started out with Cross, and then I think that might have panicked Vedant, and Vedant was like, "Oh God, what's happening? I'm going to ask for immunity and release my memoirs," and and then everything as soon as they dropped, just the admins came in with machine guns and gunned everyone down. So.
Yeah. Well, Young Vig
almost became party leader.
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah, I was a squeaker.
Pluribus was surprise candidate there.
Yeah.
No, Rockefeller was a surprise candidate. Let's just say Rockefeller's a lot nicer than Vedant.
You were both surprise candidates.
Well, everything's better than being a starocrat. That's all I can say. We had one of those in the past 2 weeks, not calling anyone out, not going to say any names, but he starts with AJ. That's all I'm going to say.
Starts with AJ. Wow.
Yeah, you guys can figure that out.
It's not very difficult, is it?
Speak for us.
But I wouldn't say he was as bad. I wouldn't say he was as bad as Starro.
No, it's pretty hard to be as bad as Starro.
I mean, when you hold on to party leader, RNC chair, and speakership, and not give it to anyone else, when I was the only person working under him, that's when things got bad. So I think Mr. Hull wanted to speak on the beginning of Vita's presidency.
Well, yeah, I was president at the time when I was so I think, I mean, it was all a shock to us, really, when Vita got elected. If you were to have asked me back in the primary or even before the primary, I wouldn't have said Vita was going to be elected. Mainly because at the very beginning I thought I thought it was me who was going to be elected, but things didn't turn out that way. And so the election happened, and the messes before the election, during the election, they all happened and led to Vita kind of winning by default. because the Republicans didn't put up a candidate. They threw their support behind Vita. And the moderate Dems just didn't want to support Sandoval after all the impeachment mess and all that kind of stuff. So then it was left to me to kind of pass the reins over, which I think I did quite successfully. Pluribus can attest to this, I think.
I can attest to that, yes, Mr. Vice President.
I asked all the cabinet members to write briefs for their incoming counterpart and for the president himself, so he kind of knew what was going on, what all the departments were doing, and worked with Vita quite nicely over the few days before the change of the guard, and then Vita got through a lot of cabinet appointments.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there was like a 15-person cab.
That's why Hull wrote the amendment on that.
Well, no, the amendment that I wrote recently, it wasn't exactly to do that. It was because I thought, and you know how these things go, it's where something's happened, right? So, for example, here, the president overstepped a little bit with the amount of cabinet positions. And then there's like a knee-jerk reaction where you just go way too far. And I believe the admins had gone, and Justice Sorrow, not Storrow, had gone way too far on the cabinet, leaving only 4 kind of cabinet members who weren't the AG or the Sec of State. So I just wanted to correct that and bring it back into line to how things used to be. And kind of Wilson, Storrow, and Colin, where it was a lot more flexible of a cabinet, and you didn't have to have like these set positions. Like, I mean, look at the cabinet that me and the president are putting forward now. I don't think it's going to take up all of the positions that we're allowed to do. So it's very much a flexible system now.
Yeah, I think it's definitely been better because of that amendment. Pete, what do you think on Vita's beginning of his presidency?
I mean, he was one of the most proved presidents ever, so that was kind of achievement at the end of his presidency, certainly. I think I do remember, going to bed and just before the election, and then waking up and then Vita was president, and I honestly had no idea why, any of the above, really.
I can really relate to you there. That's how I felt when Brexit happened. I went to bed and it was coming out as Remain, and I woke up and we'd left the EU.
Oh, God. That was a very sad night. Very sad.
But I mean, really nobody kind of expected it to.
I mean, at the Republicans, since we didn't have a candidate for the presidential run in March, basically we all decided as a party, okay, let's support Vita because, no offense to Sandoval, now that he's a Republican, if he's listening,
Sandoval's a Republican.
Better choice. Yeah, he changed over today.
Oh right, okay. So I've been out of the loop.
Yeah.
Yeah, so bit of a
we all got behind Vita. I mean, I kind of expected him with the whole party and the indies behind him that he would win, but definitely think that I only joined VC for the end of Wilson's term and the beginning and end of Hull's term, which was like 4 days. But definitely Vita was probably the best president I've seen in VC so far. We'll see how Mr. McKenna goes.
Yeah, I mean, being part of the McKenna administration, it has been a rocky start, as you've seen in the
Speaker versus cabinet.
Yes, it's been. It has very much been a rocky start.
I'm sorry to interrupt here. Apparently, Colin just sold the server to Press Secretary Barry.
Okay, we're
okay.
Maybe I don't know.
Wait, what?
I just wanted to say that.
He said he was selling it for $750. Who would buy that?
Apparently, someone
That's such a bad investment.
Okay, where's this been?
I don't know what Colin's doing.
Just as a
Where's
bit
this
of
been announced? Okay, breaking news here.
breaking news.
You
The
heard it
server
first.
has been sold to Press Secretary Barry. Reportedly, this is PBN News reporting this. Yeah, that's
To
weird.
Press Secretary Berry.
Yeah.
Yes.
What?
She just joined
know.
like a couple days ago. I remember she joined on an after hours with me and Young Vig and Mike, and now she's the owner of the server. So we'll see.
Well, I think we should have some interviews about that a little later on.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
let's just get back onto Vita for now until we get some more news about that.
We're really missing
Yeah.
something.
Hmm?
Yeah, we're really missing some. Oh, Jesus Christ.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
In
I
a wild
mean,
hour.
a curveball just got thrown at us here.
Really?
With
Yeah,
report. This is not confirmed, okay?
Yeah,
For y'all
unconfirmed
listening, it's not
reports.
Unconfirmed report.
Apparently, the server's been sold for $750. Money is being transferred, apparently. Barry just said that in main chat. We'll see how this goes later on, but let's go back to Vita's presidency here.
Yeah.
Now, he had a lot of Supreme Court appointments. What do you guys think of those?
Well, I was one of them, so
Yeah.
I think what it is I think in my case, when it came to SCOTUS, I joined it at a time when it was like SCOTUS has been very inactive through most of the server's life.
Oh wow! Shots fired!
Well, no, it's true. I mean, you've got like from all the way through January to most of February, it didn't see. I think it saw one case. So it's. I think it's when I mean, if you look at, for example, me coming into that, I was somebody who'd been really active during my first vice presidency. In the Constitutional Convention, then working in the Act Committee, and then kind of doing things alongside. And I think people can already attest to, some here can attest to, that I've already been rather active as Vice President again this time, helping Juan Lucas with some stuff, and also trying to keep good relations between the administration and Monty is always
they're Republicans.
Yeah.
That could be an entirely of 2 episodes just the relationship right now between the Republicans and the McKenna administration. I hope it gets better as executive member and a party leader in the Republicans. I hope it gets better, but we'll see how it goes down the road.
Yeah, I mean, it's
One is apparently planning on running for president in the future.
Who?
I think these are almost confirmed reports.
Almost confirmed.
We
better not be there. I don't know what Colin's doing.
Yeah. Does anyone else want to discuss Supreme Court, maybe cabinet?
I'll carry on with what I was saying about SCOTUS. So I was like a really active member, and then to be appointed, I thought, okay, this is going to be good. This is something I've been wanting to do through most of my time in Congress, and then I get to it, and I'm sat there doing nothing or barely anything, and I can't do anything to do with writing legislation, because you're not supposed to do that as a justice. You can't do anything with anything really that matters. So you're just kind of stuck in this position where you've got to be neutral. You can't really fall on one side or the other, and it just really bored me. So in the end, then there was an agreement that was made between me and James, me on behalf of the admin team, to make an agreement, and in that it meant that I had to write some legislation. Which meant I couldn't be a justice and write legislation, so I resigned.
So you would say that not being a justice is more fun in this server?
Oh, I would very much say that.
Yeah.
I would say that being a justice is fun, right? If you aren't like a massively active member and don't really want to be writing legislation and working on working like I do, like working on legislation, working with other members. If that's not what you really want to do, then being a justice is great. But if you
so SRL and Lou, we're talking about you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember it was like 2 days after Holt's nomination, and I think he kind of complaining about it on voice chats. I do remember that.
I mean, I was honoured to have the role, but it was just kind of me. It wasn't what I expected it to be at the time.
Yeah. So Pluribus, you were on the cabinet under Vita. How was that?
Yes, I was the United States Secretary of Transportation under the Vita presidency. The president was very hands-on with all the cabinet members, always checking on their progress and helping them with bills and all that. Yeah, very good man to work with.
So you would say you liked what he did with the cabinet, even though he had a lot on his plate with cabinet and Supreme Court.
Yeah, I'd say he did a pretty good job as president.
Also something that was established under Vita's last couple weeks was the Senate, which me and Pete are currently in. Pete was elected first in the original elections, and I was elected in a special election. So, Pete, how would you say the Senate was under Vita's administration?
I think it was very exciting because it just started and it was kind of an exclusive kind of membership essentially. We kind of basically had the power of like 5 representatives, and it was kind of extremely exciting. It was a really good bunch of Republicans and Democrats. Yeah, it was, and kind of presided by, of course, former Vice President Helvin. So it was kind of a really good opportunity. It was great under the Vita's administration because we kind of signed off on Vita's last bills before he left. So that was amazing.
Yeah, I felt the same way, especially I was only in the Senate for about a week and a half under Vita, but it was still a really exciting time to be in there, especially because a lot of bills were being put forth and passed because Vita was trying to get his agenda passed in the past couple weeks there.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone was busy. There was some controversy, some stability up until the last couple days where we've had some 2 special elections, but
yeah, I think the Senate has been a good thing so far, right? In the first term, or in its first few weeks of existence, it's been great. We're now looking at the prospect of either kind of I think it could even be a 2-8 Senate to the Dems if things go a certain way in these coming special elections. And to me, that system just seems a little broken when you've got 50% of members being Republican and they're only getting a representation of 2 senators. It's a very difficult system, and I've been part of some negotiations to try and remedy this, to make sure that everybody has a voice here.
Yeah.
Which is what I promised to do when I ran, is make sure that both sides get some form of voice.
Yeah, that was my main question when the McKenna administration was looking to be the victors in that election. I wanted, as you are a Democrat and you are the president of the Senate, I wanted to make sure that now it's only me and Wilson, but at the time, me, Wilson, Mac, and Monty's voices to be heard among the Senate. And if there was a tie, I would understand if you went Democratic, but at least you would consider our points of view. Now, I think there are some flaws being shown in the Senate where you do have these other people going for higher positions or higher positions in the House and just leaving the Senate with like no remorse, but or wonder what he can say can come on the show, but we'll have him on in a few minutes. But what I was going to finish saying was that definitely I also called the Senate meeting yesterday to try to have a vote held for today and probably tomorrow, because having me and Wilson against 6 senators really isn't fair. Like if it was 6-4 right now, I wouldn't be filibustering, I wouldn't be complaining, but now that it is 6-2, it's just, and James, in voice, he's like, we can do whatever we want without you and Wilson since we have a majority, which,
and I very much tried to say, like, you can't do whatever you want because what will happen is, because we all know Monty's a great person, but
Monty's a nice guy.
Yeah, Monty's great, but if you mess with him, he doesn't take it very well. And we all know that if James did do that, what would end up happening is Monty would start blocking all Senate legislation, and the Senate would then start blocking all House legislation. You'd get into a horrible situation where nobody can get anything done.
All right, so we have a question here from Wilson, or the Zilks. I don't want to say his real name, but what are our predictions for the upcoming special elections? We could start with Pete, then go Hull and Pluribus.
So just to cut in first, can we have some kind of ideas of what these elections are to start with, so that people know?
All right, so since I'm in District 4, right now we have. Sorry, I need to go to District 4. I know Dylan is running on behalf of the Republicans. We have a Libertarian, Cube, running on behalf of the Libertarians. Christensen is running on behalf of the Dems, and Johnson is running on behalf of the Dems. District 2, I don't know. I don't think anyone in here is from District 2, but from what I've heard, if Colin is not running, if those reports are confirmed, Lester, but Lester's up for a cabinet position, so I don't know if he's still in. So right now, I think it is Spiral and Serene in District 2.
Right. Spiral and Serene in District 2. That's going to be a difficult one to call there.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I really don't know where the support's going to go. Really, like, Serene is a rather liberal Republican, very much on the kind of left-hand side of the Republican Party. And then Spiral's just a bit of a wild card most of the time. You never really know where he's going to end up. So I think it's going to be a very interesting election.
Yeah.
Rockefeller is the minority leader, is from District 2, though I don't think he'll run for the Senate.
Yeah, because then you'd have to have a special election for party leader.
Yeah.
So here, let's go for official. We could do official predictions. We could go because it's on my screen like this: Pete, Pluribus, and Hull.
Yes.
How about we do that? So Pete, what are your predictions for these 2 special elections?
Before I get into my prediction, first thing about the Senate is the fact that it works, because you have 2 candidates, specifically the Republicans and Democrats, and almost every single time one of each party will be elected, it would just be depending on who was the senior senator, who was the junior one, class 1 and class 2. And that kind of, with the special election, that kind of fails because it just doesn't work, essentially.
I feel the same.
That's the problem with it.
Do you think? Sorry, just to cut in here. Do you think that a better way to do it would be to have the outgoing senator choose their replacement?
You can answer that first.
I'm just throwing an idea around, but just as an idea.
I mean, that would kind of make sense. although it would kind of be problematic for the fact that, you could technically say the Republicans got majority, you could forever essentially have a Republican majority, because just about before their term ends, they could resign and throw their hand to someone else in the Republican Party. I mean, that's kind of another problem with it.
I don't think it could make it infinite though, because even if they were to throw it to another member of the Republican Party, they're still going to have that election after 2 months, after that 2-month term. All they would be doing is handing the remainder of their term over to another person.
I suppose. So, actually, I suppose that's my point.
What I think is, because in real life, the governor of the state chooses a replacement senator if the senator steps down or unfortunately passes or something. I think maybe the vice president should choose that, because he basically is the governor of the Senate.
I don't know. I think maybe, but that could be like, if it was someone like, for example, me, that I would put, if it was a Republican who was stepping down, I'd put a Republican in their replacement. But if it was somebody a bit less kind of noble, you might get that horrible situation where they then start stacking, like, for example, say at the beginning of a term, a group of senators resign to join the cabinet, and then with the promise that the vice president will appoint someone from their own party, and then suddenly the vice president appoints people from the opposing party, you can have a bit of an issue there. So I don't know how it would be done.
And that's interesting. So go through official predictions now. Just to speed this up, because we do have an interviewee that would like to be interviewed.
Yeah, I'd just like to throw something in very quickly here. I think maybe what could happen is you still have an election, but it has to be somebody from the same party as the person who stepped down. Maybe that would be a way to do it.
Party primary, essentially.
Yeah, well, kind of, but it'd be open to everybody in the district. So the district just elects somebody from the party who were elected in the first place, just to maintain that kind of spread.
I think that system works. Yeah, that makes sense.
But who knows?
All right. So I guess I'll start with my predictions. I'm gonna say District 4 as a Republican. I'm gonna want Dylan. I think it may be close because a Libertarian is running in my district and may split the vote. It's either gonna be Dylan or Christensen. I hope it's Dylan. District 2, probably Serene. I think that even though she's inactive, she has a bigger track record than Spiral. But we'll see. Who would like to go next? And then we have Wonder on here for an interview in a few minutes.
Wonder, yes.
Yeah. I think Serene might just beat out Spiral, but you don't know where that Democratic support's going to go in that district. Serene is a very liberal Republican, so I think she does have a good chance of getting that support. But then again, Spiral has always been kind of a friend of the party, so in a lot of cases. So it could really go either way there, I think. And then it's Dylan against who in the other district?
Cube, Libertarian, Christensen, Dem, and Johnson, Dem.
Ah, right. Well, see, I don't really know the makeup of that district, but I'd imagine it would go Dylan. Dylan's
very
quite a
blood red, and that's because I'm very liked in that district, and I assume that I'm a very liked person, but I assume it's really blood red because we have a lot of Republicans and Libertarians in there.
Mm-hmm. I think the Libertarian in there could act as a spoiler. That's the only issue.
Yeah, that's the issue that we've had. We've been as GOP, we always want our members to not have a third party to have a conflicting vote with, because I would say that's how McKenna won the election a couple days ago, was Antonio running spoiler and taking votes away from Mr. Imperio, but obviously we've been trying to get Cube to step down. He won't, so we'll see how it goes tonight. So who would like to give their predictions next?
Is there any Democrat running in District 2?
No.
No, Colin was, but negotiations taking place basically to.
It's between Spiral and Serene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I'm guessing Serene may win that district.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Republicans are going to win District 4, so possibly 2 Republican gains.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully it'll be 6-4 by the end of this for GOP's sake.
Yeah. I kind of agree with what's been said already. It'll go Serene in District 2, almost certainly. Well, it could be a toss-up with Spiral, but I don't know. District 4, it could complete. I think it may lean Dylan, but I have zero idea. It could go either way.
Yeah. All right, so we have Mr. Senator Wonder from District 4 on. You can go on and unmute yourself, sir. So basically the topic was Vita's presidency, but we're just talking about what's going on right now. So I'll ask you a couple questions. First, what do you think of Mr. Vita's administration and presidency?
Well, overall, I thought it was pretty well run, and they accomplished some pretty good things, I felt. I mean, it's pretty cool having an independent, so it's very bipartisan.
Yeah. Do you think that if he stuck around and ran for a second term, do you think he would win?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, if you look at his last approval rating, 85% approved. That's a lot, and he could have definitely, I think, won by landslide.
Yeah. So as a member of the Senate, we have 3 senators in here currently. I would first, the Wonder Fairy, I would first like to ask you, what the Senate was established under Vita's administration. What do you think of it so far?
I think it's running pretty well. I mean, there's a good group of people who are in it, and I like working with them. There's a good vice president who's also there.
Hi.
Oh yeah, hello.
Thank you.
But I think the way things are going with it and how it works with the House, I think it's a good time to put it in now. And I think there could be a couple things that could be expanded, but overall, I think it's going well.
Yeah. So what do you think of myself and Mr. Wilson's filibuster over the past few days?
Okay, I did not like that. You filibustered my bill.
Yeah.
That was really annoying.
Yeah. Hey, it was
that's the
2 hours before, and I was like, all right, Wilson, it's like 6-2. I don't even know if Mac is going to show up because she has her hearing. Why don't we just abstain to both votes? And he was on board with it. And your vote didn't pass. I'm sorry, man.
I have to re-propose that now. And it's going to be behind.
Sorry about that. So what are your predictions for tonight's 2 special elections in District 2 and District 4? I assume as you were sitting and listening, you know who is running in those districts?
Dylan and Cerne, I don't know how to pronounce him.
Serene.
Serene, yeah.
Serene.
So those are the 2 Republicans, and Serene's in District 2 and Dylan's in District 4. And do you know who else is running in those districts? I could always say them again.
I'm not entirely sure about the Dems.
So we have Spiral in District 2 running against Serene. Those are the only 2. So no Dems, because Colin dropped out. No Dems currently running in District 2, but in District 4 we have 2 Democrats running, Christensen and Johnson, as well as a Libertarian in Cube. A big question for the GOP tonight is, will Q run as a spoiler against Dylan, and maybe Christensen walks in with the senatorial or the Senate seat. So what are your predictions for tonight?
I think for District 2, the Spiral will definitely not win. That's my opinion. Sorry, Spiral, if you're listening. But for District 4, I think that's going to be a really close race. Cube could have a possible spoiler effect, but I kind of see that as partially unlikely. It's still possible, but but I just think it will be a close race between. Well, first we have to see if Christensen and Johnson, whoever gets it. But I think if Christensen wins, I think it'll be a very close race between Dylan and Christensen. Yeah.
All right. We have a Wonder, do you have more time to maybe stick around, or do you have to go?
I have a couple more minutes.
All right. So we have a question from Mr. Michael J. Ross. What do we think of Speaker Lamontagne's performance so far? Anyone that wants to answer can answer first. This is a table question. As I think it applies to all of us, even though only one of us is really in the house still, Mr. Pluribus. I will say, as I've been friends with Monty ever since he came back from leaving after his presidential run. I think he's a good guy. What he's doing, kind of pushing back against the Dem, kind of sticking up for the Republicans. As a Republican, I enjoy that, but I don't enjoy all this controversy between the administration and the Speaker of the House. But I hope he does well down the road.
Well, I think it's only natural, to be honest. Of course, with a Democratic executive and a Democratic Senate and a Republican House, it's only a natural rub up. And the Speaker is also trying to reform his own party after of course,
AJ. That's the only name we're gonna say.
Great dislike of former Speaker of the House AJ Cross.
Starocrat.
So,
all right. Yeah. Anyone else have any input? Mr. Wilson is on with us right now. Too. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are y'all doing?
Oh, you didn't even give me time to create a graphic.
Oh, sorry. Wilson is here. He is not an angel yet. As
he will be. Just give me a quick second.
Of course.
So
I must say it is nice being here on PBN.
Again,
PBN Podcast.
The last time you were here, you were announcing your own election defeat, which I couldn't think was probably the nicest experience in the world.
I think I did a pretty good job at sort of not crying on air.
Yeah.
Because those were devastating results.
They were dry tears. That's what they were.
Right. Yeah.
Great time.
So, Mr. Wilson, we are kind of getting off track. It's fine because new reports have happened about Colin reportedly selling the server and all that stuff. But what do you think of the Senate as a whole?
I think it's a badly needed institution on the server. I'm glad we implemented it because what we've seen lately, at least over the last month or two, is that the House has sort of been a rubber stamp. Like anything that got put up for a vote basically would get passed. And if there was one dissenting person, then everyone would be like, oh yeah, he's got a point. Let's all vote against it. So I feel like in the Senate, we get more time to deliberate and talk things over and make sure that only quality legislation goes through.
Well, something I've been using or will be using the Senate for, hopefully, is as a test bed a little bit. I've been working with Lucas and Wanda on creating a piece of legislation. Basically seeing if committees could work, right?
Right.
It's only going to last for it's just an experiment. It's a rule in the House. It doesn't need full approval. It's going to last for 1 month, right? Just the way the way the committees are set up won't be the way they're set up in the final iteration of it. It's just to see whether these committees work or can work in this server. and if they can work, then maybe we can roll them out a bit more.
I'm sure you all know that I've spoken against this motion as such in the Senate.
Yeah.
And I think committees are a flawed concept on the server.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a bad idea to limit people to certain areas, especially when you have such a small, tight-knit group as the Senate right now. We have time to all 10 of us talk about individual legislation. I think it'd be a shame to divide us up into several policy areas.
But the thing is, you'd still be able to talk about it as a Senate as a whole after it had passed through the committee stage.
Yeah, I know. I still think it's superfluous, and I don't think it's right for the server. And I also think that, no offense to you, that it gives the vice president too much power.
Well, I mean, in its current form, the vice president is allowed to choose which committee members go to each committee. This won't be the way it works in the final.
It's already on the docket, so that is
no. Right, I know that, but this is only for the 1 month test. This is only there for test purposes. If it does come out, if this test is successful and it does come out to be rolled out across the server, there would be a better way of choosing those senators. Most likely.
I think if there is a better way, you should go with that straight off the bat. I'm going to vote against the motion. I'm going to keep saying I'm just going to say that this isn't a motion as such, because what it does is it forces senators into committees, which is inherently unconstitutional. It says in one of the first sections of the motion that senators must join a committee, which doesn't have any basis in the Constitution. And as such, if it was to pass, it would have to pass, even for a test run, as a constitutional amendment.
I disagree, but we'll move on from this.
Yeah. So, Mr. Wilson, what are your thoughts on Mr. Lamontagne's performance as speaker so far, and as party leader, as you are the only other Republican member in this chat right now?
Well, I think Lamontagne has done an outstanding job. I don't think anyone can question that. He's the only guy who's been able to rally the Republican Party as of late as well. He won the only server-wide election that we won this month, except Gideon's race for Senate, of course.
Which wasn't server-wide.
Which wasn't server-wide, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he's doing an outstanding job, and he's currently the only safeguard against a complete Democrat rule over the entirety of the Congress.
Yeah, I would totally agree. As you and me, we've discussed our filibuster over the past 2 days. What are your thoughts? How do you think we are doing right now, Mr. Wilson?
I think the filibuster is an important part of the Senate as a whole, and I would want, if the situation were reversed and we were sitting with a possible 7-3 Senate or an 8-2 Senate, or if there were just a lot of special elections going on, I would want the Democrats to do the same, because
I would agree.
You got to look out for your party, and you got to look out for your interests, especially when you're being underrepresented.
Yeah, I would totally agree on that. Practicing our right is something that, as Americans, we are granted, and as senators, we ought to be granted too. So how about we talk about the elections of April 10th? We have not talked about those yet. We'll start with the presidential, and then we can go district by district. All
right.
So, as if I'm sure you all know, since you are all on VC, I'm talking to our viewers right now. Mr. McKenna won 48% of the popular vote last Friday to win the presidency, as Mr. Sexy Hull as his running mate.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Vice President.
No debate there.
No.
Mr. Vice President, what
Thank
do
you,
you
hubby.
think of the what do you think of your win on Friday?
Hard fought would be a word I would use. Going into that, I really I think I mentioned on the election night that I thought it'd be close, and I really was surprised by the results that were coming out.
You have Antonio to thank for that.